Since its creation, Dante Alighieri's Inferno has captured the imaginations of readers, artists, and scholars alike. His vivid depiction of Hell's nine circles, each tailored to specific sins, stands as a monumental piece of literature. But this was all the way back in the 1300s, and I don't know about you, but I think the world today is quite different than it was for Dante. I mean, if I were to give an iPhone 15 Pro to a person back in the Middle Ages, I think they would literally explode. Dante's journey through hell serves as a moral guide for the living, illustrating the consequences of various sins. But our understanding today of the human psyche is totally different. So, what is Dante missing from Inferno as simply a victim of the times? He didn't know what Twitter was or Instagram, or he didn't know about all the mental health conditions of our time. Well, I mean, maybe you knew about some of those. But this poses the question of what my proposed, ultra modern, hip, new 10th circle of hell will seek to answer. I wanted to delve deeper into the modern human psyche and address some more modern transgressions. And the more I thought about it, one specific modern dilemma kept coming to my mind: trolling. Now, I know what you're thinking. Trolling isn't that bad. It's definitely not a sin. It's just, funny, harmless jokes. And yeah, pretty fair. But let me tell you something. You're wrong. And here's why. Let's take a common internet trolling method: swatting. Now, anyone who's a prominent online influencer will know that swatting is a real thing that happens. And mostly it's people who are a victim of online trolling. For example, back in 2017, a man by the name of Andrew Finch got swatted and was killed, all due to an online troller calling the SWAT team to his location. So yeah, it can get pretty out of hand. Anyways, now that I've gotten my point across, let's get back to my 10th circle. Now, I'm not 100% on the name of it yet, but I have thought of a couple of them. The circle of trolling, pretty on the nose there. The circle of provocation, or provocation. I'm not exactly sure how to say that. Or the circle of premeditatedness. But ultimately, I sketched out what a model landscape for a place like this would be. I imagined a seemingly endless expanse covered in a dense, obscuring fog. And here, the souls of the internet trolls, maybe debaters who kind of just want to get a rise out of people, and then probably some select politicians as well. I imagined that all the sinners here would be headless, constantly poking and mangling the other sinners in the plane. I also thought that there would be some sinners who would act alone in their pokage, as well as those who would accumulate varying sizes of groups with them and would kind of act like a unit. Oh, I should also probably mention where this new 10th circle lies in Dante's huge array of layers and circles. At first thought, I thought maybe right before or around the 5th circle of wrath. Because, trollers like to initiate anger and provoke and fight. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought about how well it would fit into the 8th circle of fraud. So I think I would place it within the Malabolgia of the 8th circle. I think I would probably sandwich it in between the 9th and 10th Bolgia. But it could also fit really well as an addition to the already existing sower of discord 9th Bolgia. But I mean, as my example showed, I think the extremities of trolling can honestly get pretty bad. So I'm happy with it being right after the 9th Bolgia. Now, these sinners are headless, and they're in this thick, obscure fog, which I kind of thought was a good reflection of the anonymity that these trollers hide behind in life. The headless nature of the sinners would show the anonymity that the trollers hide behind in order to carry out all of their malice. I mean, one of the biggest motivations for trollers are the barriers that the internet provides them. It reduces their social barriers. It enables behaviors that would be way less likely in physical spaces. There's also a huge lack of consequences for trollers. Anonymity and delayed moderation from the internet, I mean, all of these things enable trolls to act without any immediate repercussions. I added the idea of some sinners working in groups to exemplify the attention-seeking and horde mentality, psychology of trollers. The vastness of the fog and this like limitless plane that I thought of is kind of to point to the online world and how it has many echo chambers that can really amplify trolling behavior, provide way more support and reinforcement. Now, there's so many studies out there that show that sadism and psychopathy are strong predictors of trolling. So I added this constant poking and damaging of the sinners to each other because those who are sadistic and psychopathic are much more likely to engage in trolling due to their enjoyment of causing harm and the appeal of anonymity and avoiding social repercussions. Trolls often engage in trolling systematically, deriving pleasure from it and viewing it as almost a type of occupation. Hence why my sinners are constantly going at it with no signs of stopping. Now, I've explained the contrapasso of my sinners, and how that directly relates to the sin that they are defined by, but I have yet to mention the dynamic duo that appear in the Inferno. How would the Pilgrim and Virgil react and interact with this new 10th circle? Or I guess I should say Bolgia, this new 10th Bolgia. Throughout the Inferno, there are many different ways that the sinners communicate with the Pilgrim. These are often displays of the psychology of the sinners through their language or way of speech. However, with my new Bolgia, I found it hard to include this without sacrificing the anonymity. And I mean, that's a huge ideal for the sinners here. They are headless, so I thought maybe they could write messages in the dirt, or somehow signal some sort of communication with Virgil and the Pilgrim. But ultimately, these sinners wouldn't really want to be known. They find enjoyment in causing harm to others without revealing themselves. While they certainly are motivated through others interacting and following them, I found it much more fitting for this to happen within the sinners of the area and not involving the Pilgrim and Virgil. Now, I'm definitely not a writer by any stretch of the definition, but I thought it could be fun to write a small narrative on how the Pilgrim and Virgil maybe would interact and come across this Bolgia had it happened in the Inferno. Okay, without further ado, here is my small narrative take on Virgil and the Pilgrim discovering my amazing new Bolgia. I wonder if I should do a very epic voice, maybe some British in there. It'll probably go horribly, but I feel like it will add to the feeling, the vibe. All right. As we descended further, the air grew heavy with moisture, and my vision dimmed with each step. My guide, firm in his resolve, grabbed me and led me deeper into the enveloping fog. The pain was eerily silent, punctuated only by the sound of distant muffled noises. Black silhouettes began to emerge from the mist, their forms human-like, but indistinct. Before I could discern their nature, a loud exclaim from my master pierced the air. I turned in terror, but the dense fog obscured my sight. The grip of my guide's hand vanished, leaving me in fear. My vision blurred further, and I felt myself on the brink of collapse. Just then, my master's voice rang out from the mist, commanding, "Cease now, you foul beasts!" I followed the sound, emerging where the fog seemingly thinned.
There stood my master, safely berating a horrid sight. Surrounding us were creatures that looked familiar up until their napes. Without heads to house their thoughts, they mindlessly flailed their limbs at one another. Their rage and screaming were silent to the ears, but effortlessly conveyed to the heart. When I felt my breath return, I was overwhelmed with a strange relief. Despite the horrors of our journey, nothing had lifted my spirits like this sight. My guide, I asked, stifling laughter, why are those who bring such humor consigned to these depths? They flail and run like chickens before the slaughter.
Okay, I definitely switched accents or in timbres of voice like 40,000 times and probably mispronounced 40 words and did it too slow and too fast at parts, but I did my best. Well, as it approaches 1:52 a.m. in the morning, I think it's time to leave our 10th circle Bolgia behind. And as we do that, we are reminded of Dante's timeless message that every action, no matter how seemingly insignificant or hidden, carries weight. In a world where technology can both connect and divide us, it's very important to remember the impact that your words and deeds have on others. While Dante's Inferno was a product of its time, its core themes remain very relevant. Our modern sins, like trolling, may take new forms, but the essence of human nature will always persist. By imagining a new circle of hell for the digital age, we can better understand the complexities of our own world while also relating it to amazing literary works like Dante's Inferno.